What I'm about to tell you is a secret in Canada. At least I cannot find a single media outlet that reported it. That's almost a secret, right? Even though it was news announced at a noisy press conference by the noisiest president in a century. At precisely 12 noon on Thursday, January 31st, Donald Trump signed an executive order banning Canadian goods and services from potentially hundreds of billions of dollars worth of U.S. contracts in which the U.S. government is involved as a contractor or a funder. It's pure trade protectionism. It's kind of a trade war. It's aimed at the whole world. It doesn't specifically mention Canada by name, but of course Canada is by far the country that will be the most impacted, given the size of our trading relationship with the United States and the integration of our economies and the nature of the products and services being banned under this executive order. I know you haven't heard about this. You probably don't even believe me when I say there's a trade war that was just launched, because it's such shocking news and it's such a disaster. But all you've heard from the media party instead is how amazing Chrystia Freeland, our foreign minister, is, and how she totally wrestled that Donald Trump to the ground over NAFTA renegotiations, and how she totally slam dunked him and wore that weird T-shirt about him, and even went to an anti-Trump rally in Toronto. Remember that? Right in the middle of negotiations, calling Trump a tyrant. So you know it's all good. You know everything's great because the CBC says so, and Maclean says so, and the rest of the bailout media say so. You must think what I've just told you, that Donald Trump has launched a trade war against us, you must think that's fake news. I mean, I'll be candid. I was skeptical when someone first told me about this a couple days ago. It's that weird. I had to learn about a trade war against Canada from someone personally telling me about it verbally, like we're in some old-timey world in the age of the telegraph or something. But Donald Trump did not do this quietly. Has he ever done anything quietly? He had a full-blown press conference about it in the Oval Office in the White House. The entire media was invited, including, presumably, CBC, CTV, Global TV, Globe and Mail, Toronto Star, Post Media. They all have Washington journalists on the ground there. And for those who couldn't attend in person or who don't have any reporters in Washington, no problem. The White House was kind enough to put the entire 38-minute presentation on YouTube. That's what you can see behind me now. And if you don't like watching videos, well, no problem. The White House was kind enough to provide a word-perfect transcript. Everything Trump said and everyone else said, they just put the whole transcript up. It's on the website. It's called Remarks by President Trump at Signing of Executive Order Strengthening Buy American Preferences for Infrastructure Projects. And you can see it's dated January 31st, and you can see it's on the White House website. At whitehouse.gov, you can find it yourself. Like I say, it was a massive announcement with various government and industry officials there. I'm going to just play a little bit of it for you on video, because I know that no one has told you this. No one has told you that we are in a trade war with America now. So I need to take extra time to prove it to you, or you're going to think I'm nuts. Here, listen for yourself. This happened at 12 noon on Thursday, so this wasn't hidden. This wasn't done like at midnight. This wasn't done just minutes ago and the media are catching up. This was Thursday at noon. There's absolutely no excuse whatsoever for this news to be hidden, except that it is deeply, deeply embarrassing to Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland and their desperate desire to pretend that they are competent in the world of foreign affairs and trade, and therefore it's deeply embarrassing to the CBC state broadcaster and all the rest of the private broadcasters who are signing up for some of that $595 million bailout fund. They want to be little state broadcasters under Trudeau's media bailout plan. So here, let me do a bit of reporting for you. Sorry you have to hear about this from me rather than on the state broadcaster that costs you $1.5 billion tax dollars a year. Take a listen to Donald Trump on Thursday at 12 noon.
Today I'm taking action to build on this tremendous success by strengthening the Buy American principle for federal infrastructure and federal spending. We want American roads, bridges, and railways and everything else to be built with American iron, American steel, American concrete, and American hands. And If you look at what's happened with the steel industry, it's actually amazing. The steel industry is thriving now, and it was dead when I came to office. It was dead. It was a dead industry. They were dumping steel all over the place. The jobs were going, and if any of you are in the steel industry, I think you can probably tell, you know, and aluminum too.
It's true, and importantly, and I'll come back to this later, it's mainly China that was the problem here. China was flooding the U.S. with deeply subsidized, artificially subsidizing low-cost steel, below what it cost them to make it. And they were doing this not to make a profit, of course, but rather to stimulate employment and industrial expansion back in China, and to push American steel companies out of business by dumping that cheap steel, and perhaps even put the U.S. in a strategic problem of having no more heavy industries anymore. So it's really China. And of course, China was trying to hide its tracks by shipping some of that subsidized steel into America via Canada. But again, it's a China problem. In this 38-minute press conference, Trump said the word China 28 times. He didn't say the word Canada once, I checked. But we're the ones who are going to be disproportionately punished here. And I'll get back to that in a moment. But here's more from Trump's Thursday announcement. Now, you know how Trump's speeches go. There are the little tangents and little vignettes and little anecdotes and little jokes, and there's banter. And he talks about plenty of other things not really related to the announcement itself. Fine. You can watch the whole 38-minute video. But instead, let me show you just a few clips that I think sum it up, okay? So here's Alexander Acosta. That's Trump, cabinet minister in charge of labor, the labor secretary. Listen to him.
Mr. President, you know, in the past, we've encouraged individuals out there to buy American. But what you're doing is so important because you're leading by example. You're saying the federal government will buy American. And we've seen the impact last year with, you know, a 10-year record low in foreign purchases. And this is going to take it to the next step. And it will translate in more jobs for individuals just like those here today.
It's having an incredible effect. I mean, people don't realize it yet, but they're seeing it more and more. We are mandating even pipelines and things that were made elsewhere. They're starting to be made here because we have a steel industry again, but it's having a tremendous impact. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've been co-sponsoring a bill for years with Dan Lipinski. Couldn't get it to go anywhere. I'm honored that you're doing it today to force it into action because, as you said, these are American jobs. It's American concrete, it's American steel, it's American asphalt. Thank you for doing so.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So there's banter with administration officials. There's congressmen there. There's businessmen. You can see there's some industrial workers. There's some lobbyists. Here's just a little bit more, just because I know you haven't seen this anywhere.
Mr. President, I'd like to thank you for this Buy American push that you've got with federal funding for the infrastructure. That's Buy American. It's jobs for us, and it puts us in a position where we can compete. Otherwise, we tend to walk away from jobs where foreign competition is going to take our business.
Yeah. We're changing that fast.
Thank you.
Big difference. Big difference.
And then they do what they do. They sign the executive order.
Okay, let's go. Does anybody want this pen? Because I have one. Sure. Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Okay, here you go.
That's a declaration of war, a trade war. It's on. Let me read a little bit of that executive order to you. So it's sort of the opposite of the banter and blarney of the Trump press conference. It's just the executive order, which is not particularly a law. It's not a statute, but in some ways it's more powerful than a law because it doesn't get watered down or delayed by the legislative process, by congressmen. It's more limited than a law under the U.S. Constitution, but the president can do what he wants to a large extent in the executive branch of the government. That means the cabinet positions here. Let me quote, and again, this is the opposite of secret. It's right there on the White House website. They're advertising it. Look, here's what it looks like on the website. Executive order on strengthening Buy American preferences for infrastructure projects. So I'm going to give you a little bit of legalese. I know I'm spending way more time than normal on just giving you the facts, before I then give you my commentary and analysis. But that is because the entire Canadian political media establishment has not reported this. Not a peep anywhere that I've seen. Neither from the government nor the opposition, neither from the state broadcaster nor any private broadcaster. So I want you to be very well briefed on the facts, because you will be the first person in your circle to know this, and I want you to really know it. So I'm going to read this executive order. Let me get into the text of it. By the authority vested in me as President, by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, and to strengthen Buy American principles in federal financial assistance programs, it is hereby ordered as follows. Section 1, Policy. As expressed in Executive Order 13788 of April 18th, 2017, Buy American and Hire American, it is the policy of the executive branch to maximize, consistent with law, the use of goods, products, and materials produced in the United States in federal procurements and through the terms and conditions of federal financial assistance awards. Okay, like I say, it's not a law, but it has the force and effect of a law over those matters that the US president can control through his executive authority. And he's saying anything the federal government buys, anything that the federal government spends its money on, finances, it's got to be American made. I'm not going to read the entire order, although it's fairly brief. But look at the definitions of what's covered. This is really important. I think this is the heart of it. Section 2, definitions. As used in this order, A, produced in the United States means for iron and steel products that all manufacturing processes from the initial melting stage through the application of coatings occurred in the United States. So there goes any Canadian steel. Sorry, guys. Here's some more. C, manufactured products means items and construction materials composed in whole or in part of non-ferrous metals such as aluminum, plastics and polymer-based products such as polyvinyl chloride pipe, aggregates such as concrete, glass, including optical fiber, and lumber. So it's not just steel, it's plastic and concrete and wood and glass. Everything made in a factory, pretty much. That's why they love Trump in the Rust Belt, in those working class states. And that's why Trump won in Ohio and Indiana and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan and places that Republicans haven't won in a generation. Because Trump didn't tell those people, like the snooty liberals did for so long, to just suck it up and, yeah, you're out of the job of the factory, just learn how to code, or whatever millennials do when they're not ordering $15 avocado toasts. Trump doesn't hate working people. I think he loves them. Take a look.
Well, you know, Kevin, when I took over, the Rust Belt was really in trouble. Many people were saying it's dying, it's dead, people were leaving. And I love the Rust Belt, and the Rust Belt is no longer the Rust Belt as far as I'm concerned. It's vibrant, it's doing so well. You look at all of those red marks are where it's flourishing. Tremendous numbers, and that's fantastic. We're very proud.
Compare that to Justin Trudeau talking about pipelines or the oil sands or industrial scale mines.
I've said time and time again, and you're all tired of hearing me say it, you can't make a choice between what's good for the environment and what's good for the economy. We can't shut down the oil sands tomorrow. We need to phase them out. We need to manage the transition off of our dependence on fossil fuels.
We need to phase them out. Who's fighting for their workers? Justin Trudeau is not. Donald Trump is. Okay, just a bit more from the executive order. It's not actually that long. It's just a little bit of legalese, but it's actually fairly plain, isn't it? But here's a scary part of it. Listen to all the projects that Canadian firms will now be shut out from. Section D, infrastructure project, means a project to develop public or private physical assets that are designed to provide or support services to the general public in the following sectors. Surface transportation, including roadways, bridges, railroads, and transit. Aviation, ports, including navigational channels. Water resources projects. Energy production, generation and storage, including from fossil fuels, renewable, nuclear, and hydroelectric sources. Electricity transmission, gas, oil, and propane storage and transmission, electric, oil, natural gas, and propane distribution systems, broadband internet, pipelines, stormwater and sewer infrastructure, drinking water infrastructure, cybersecurity, and any other sector designated through a notice published in the Federal Register by the Federal Permitting Improvement Steering Council. So yeah, I'm not sure if there's anything really left out of that. He even talks about oil and gas, he even talks about renewables. Now, I'm not a trade lawyer, but I think that means Canada won't even be able to make the Keystone XL pipeline that Trudeau approved. I don't, even though it's a Canadian company that owns it. I think Americans have to build it. I mean, now Trudeau doesn't care. He doesn't want Canadians to build pipelines in Canada. He can't very well demand that Canadians be allowed to build pipelines in America. I'm not even talking about the workers. I'm talking about the steel. Can't even sell the steel for it. So what do we have here? Well, we have Donald Trump keeping a promise to the people who vote for him. I know that they hate Donald Trump in the fancy circles in Canada. I still can't believe that Chrystia Freeland was the keynote speaker at an explicitly anti-Trump rally in Toronto during the NAFTA renegotiations. The Liberals hate Donald Trump. Freeland and Trudeau hate Trump. The Canadian media hates Trump. The CBC is obsessed with Trump. And that all makes them feel really good. But Trump literally couldn't care less because Ontario and Quebec and British Columbia and the CBC head office, they don't have votes in the U.S. Electoral College in 2020. Michigan does, Ohio does, and he's taking jobs from Canada and giving it to them. The latest U.S. jobs report was stunning, by the way. I don't know if you saw this. 304,000 new jobs in January alone. Almost double predictions. That's in America. 300,000 new jobs? I'm sorry, that's amazing. Canada's jobs report for January doesn't come out for a couple more days, but for the previous month, December 2018, Canada created a grand total of 9,600 jobs, and it's actually worse than that because Canada actually lost 18,900 full-time jobs in December. But there were 28,300 new part-time jobs, so that's the only reason the number is positive at all. So Canada created net 9,300 jobs in the last month for which we have data. America created 304,000. That is 32 times more than we created. And they only have 9 times our population, but 32 times as much jobs growth. Hey, what do you think this new Buy American, Hire American executive order signed on Thursday at noon, what do you think that's going to do to these job numbers? That executive order is now in effect. He signed it. You saw him. So it starts now. I predict we will see outright job losses in Canada, not in the January numbers that are going to come out this week, but of course, going forward, the February numbers that we'll see in a month. Do you not think this ought to be news in Canada? This is a trade war. I know he was all jokey and banter, high fives and all. Those were the Americans who were going to get the jobs. This is a trade war just right after we were supposed to have signed up for the renewed NAFTA. But as I write this, as I say this, not a single Canadian media outlet, at least according to Google's news search, has written about this story. Look, you can see a Buy American executive order sorted by date. It's not there. There's nothing. Here's the CBC's internal search engine. If you go to the CBC and type in Buy American, you'll see a story from November. You'll see a story from 2017. There are a few hits from the past, including during the NAFTA renegotiations, but nothing about this huge news from Thursday. Come on. Every journalist is silent? It's Trump. He's so noisy. I thought the Toronto Star had that guy Daniel Dale, who's got this list of 7,000 fibs that Donald Trump told. So Daniel Dale is listening to every word Trump says, and he just sort of missed this? Well, because these reporters aren't really in the reporting business. They're in the PR business, or at least whatever it takes to get their share of Trudeau's $595 million bailout. You tell me a more persuasive explanation. I put it to you that they can't have missed it. How could they have missed it? I put it to you that they don't want to report this because this puts Trudeau and Freeland in a bad position. Now, to be honest, it's hard to be mad at Trump for doing this. I mean, it's going to hurt Canada. But he's doing this for his people. This is how national leaders are supposed to act, I think, in their own national interests. It's hard for smaller countries with smaller economies like Canada to act that way. America remains the world's essential economic engine, despite what the China-obsessed pundits say. And in fact, Trump's hard line with China is really his main point here. That's why he's doing this. He doesn't mean to come for us. I told you, he said China 28 times. He didn't say Canada one time, but that's the thing. I really believe Trump was trying to shoot at China. But we are the collateral damage. But because we have such a weak prime minister and a weak foreign minister, Chrystia Freeland, who's never negotiated anything of any size in her life, but she thought that her hip millennial Twitter squad shown here were the best people in our entire country to personally lead the NAFTA trade negotiations. Well, look, we have no clue. We have no relationship left with Trump down there. We have no one on our side down there. I wonder if Chrystia Freeland herself even knows about this news. She's probably on some TV pundits panel or something, you know, posing for another magazine cover. I scrolled through her Twitter feed and that of Foreign Affairs Department, and there's nothing about this, nothing. She's got a tweet about a visit she made to a daycare the other day. It's got nothing to do with the federal government. Daycares are not the federal government's department. It's got nothing to do with foreign affairs. But that's how she's spending her time. I wonder if she even knows about this executive order. Let me read her daycare tweet. It was great to stop by one of the many daycares in Uni Rose. That's University Rosedale. That's the name of her riding. Thank you to all the hard-working caregivers who do this essential work. And thank you to the brilliant students who help me practice my French. Yeah, okay, that goes in your diary, sister. That's can we get a little bit more foreign ministry stuff? Like the trade war just declared against us. Yeah, I am not sure if we have anyone who is looking out for our national interest. Do you? So you can't blame Trump, really, for doing what he said he would do in 1,000 campaign stops. It's all he talked about: buy American, hire American. He talked about reshoring factories. That's the opposite of offshoring factories. He talked about bringing industrial jobs back to America. He said it so many times, and I guess he meant it because he's doing it, and I think it might even be working for him. I wish we had his job reports, don't you? I wish we had a leader who actually loved industry, who actually loved working men and women. Look at this. Justin Trudeau would never stand next to a sign saying that he loves coal or loves oil, would he? Trump does. And you know what? He bloody well means it. So I don't think you've been told the news. Our political class is clueless or despondent or something. Who knows? Our media class is incurious and uninterested. Or maybe they are actively in spin mode for Trudeau, as in hide mode. I have no idea. I'm sorry, they just declared a trade war against Canada and no one's talking about it. So what should Trudeau do? What should we do? Well, I think we should look at what Stephen Harper did exactly 10 years ago when Barack Obama did the same thing to us. Protectionism is a bipartisan thing in the States. The first thing Stephen Harper did when Barack Obama brought in Buy American, I think he called it the Reinvest in America Act in 2009, the first thing Harper did was to make a fuss. Not rudely, not by going to rallies calling Obama a tyrant, but by relentlessly phoning and meeting and bugging Obama to carve out an exemption for Canada. Harper just wouldn't stop. It was his top priority. He wasn't rude about it. He wasn't embarrassing. But here, let's quote Obama. Here's Obama basically saying, all right, stop pestering me, Steve. We'll exempt Canada. Take a listen to Obama himself.
The Buy American provisions that were there, as I noted at the time, we made sure that they were WTO compliant. That doesn't mean that they're not a source of irritation between the United States and Canada. Prime Minister Harper, I want to emphasize, has brought this up with me every single time we've met, so he's been on the job on this issue, and our teams have been working together. It appears that there may be ways to deal with this bilaterally, but also potentially multilaterally.
Believe me, I could show you a dozen more video clips like that. Harper made it his top priority. Did you know he had every Canadian cabinet minister fly down to Washington to meet with their American counterparts, with Obama's cabinet secretaries? Importantly, Harper appointed a former New Democrat premier, Gary Dewar, as our ambassador to Washington. Why would Harper do that? Why would he choose a New Democrat? Harper's so right-wing. Why did he choose a socialist? Well, because the point of an ambassador is to assess the political landscape in the other country and to do your best to persuade other countries of your Canadian interests. So send a friendly socialist down as an ambassador to Obama, the friendly socialist. Gary Dewar did a great job, by the way, regardless of his partisan stripe. And by the way, I don't even think it's socialist to defend Canada's interest to Obama. It's just so he would click with Obama, they would get along. The point is, Harper knew that Obama and Obama's people would viscerally like Dewar more than if Harper had sent some right-winger down there. And not once in his term as Prime Minister did Stephen Harper himself ever badmouth Obama or his people in public. Not once. He bit his tongue even when Obama slighted us. Trudeau does not have that personal discipline. Trudeau has done the opposite. Trudeau has sent the most irritating liberals to interact with Trump. There was no reason to send quirky, eccentric, irritating, narcissistic, know-nothing Chrystia Freeland to have been the lead negotiator on the NAFTA renegotiation. That is a legal, technical job. I mean, put aside the fact that we got fleeced in those renegotiations, that this Buy American executive order on Thursday proves that she failed to make a dent in them. Why would you send someone who was not a trade lawyer to lawyer a trade deal? Is she going to try surgery next? Other than vanity and photo ops, instead of building friendships with Trump and biting his tongue the way Harper did with Obama, Justin Trudeau has gone to the United States again and again. He's gone there about a dozen times. But he very rarely meets Republicans. He prefers to meet with his Democrat buddies of the most extreme variety. Here he is, meeting with Barack Obama's first campaign chairman, David Axelrod. Axelrod has no power anymore. I think he's with some college or some think tank. Why are you meeting with Obama insiders now? Obama's gone. Obama's not in office anymore. Why aren't you meeting with Trump insiders? Watch this clip. I've shown this clip before as evidence that Trudeau is obviously drunk or stoned on those flights. As you know, he goes through thousands of dollars worth of liquor, and of course marijuana is legal now. You can see in this video, just standing up and sitting down, Trudeau wobbles 3 times. He's clearly inebriated. That's the fun of this video, but the point is, why isn't he meeting with Republicans? Kellyanne Conway, Mike Pence, Jared Kushner. If he hates Trump so much, fine. Meet with Trump's people. Here, take a look.
Thank you so much.
There were 4 wobbles there. Stephen Harper didn't just meet with cabinet ministers and congressmen. He also met with United States-based companies that were lobbying for Buy American. But get this, one of the companies that was present at Trump's Buy American press conference on Thursday is called McWane. That's just the name of the company. I never heard of it before. They make things like iron pipes, fire hydrants, that sort of thing. Heavy industry, right? They love these Buy America rules. They were part of the Obama Buy American lobby group too. Like I say, this is bipartisan. Now back under Obama, Gary Dewar, our ambassador, summoned McWane to the Canadian Embassy and said, you guys sell a lot of stuff into Canada. It'd be a shame if anything happened to your sales into Canada. Hey, why don't we all focus on the real bad guys here? China dumping cheap steel. And why don't you guys sign a letter, McWane, the American company, why don't you sign a letter calling for an exemption for Canada? Keep us out of it. Because you wouldn't want anything to happen to your exports to Canada now, would you? So a little bit of hardball. Canada basically said, if you don't ask Obama to exempt us, you just might find yourself having some problems in our markets, especially given some of the legal and ethical problems that McWane was having at the time. That's a little bit of Trump-style negotiating, isn't it? 10 years ago by Harper and Dewar. And would you look at that? McWayne, the folks who were literally standing next to Trump on Thursday, back a decade ago, they wrote a letter to well, in this case, they wrote it to a congressman, but he was the protectionist congressman. Basically, they wrote a letter to Obama saying, hey guys, we really like this Buy American stuff, but we don't mind if Canada is allowed to sell into the US also. Can you believe that? That's what Harper and his diplomats did. Harper and his team met with all sorts of American companies that had operations on both sides of the border. And they made the case to these Americans that the problem is not Canada. You know, we have balanced trade with America. We buy as much from them as they buy from us. That's fair dealing. The problem is obviously China and their tariffs and their dumping. So it was so persuasive. Harper got the exemptions Canada needed by making it his top priority, by not being rude, by sending an ambassador that clicked with Obama, by being a little bit tough with companies, but just making the case. Stephen Harper spent his political capital serving our national interest. He didn't spend his political capital as Trudeau and Freeland did over the past year, demanding bizarre things like feminist or environmentalist clauses in the NAFTA deal. What is that about? Climate change in the NAFTA deal? Gender in the NAFTA deal? Stephen Harper spent his political capital defending Canadian jobs. Justin Trudeau, well, to be frank, he doesn't really like industrial jobs. He thinks they should be phased out. You heard him. He's canceling them anyways. And he really does prefer Democrats, even if they don't control the White House. Trudeau just can't stomach playing nice with Trump, even if it's what diplomacy calls for, even if it's literally what diplomacy means. We are in a trade war as bad as anything we faced in a decade. That's dangerous. But just as dangerous and more inexplicable is a media party and a political establishment, including Andrew Scheer's conservatives, I might add, who haven't said a word about this. How bizarre. That's an excerpt from the Ezra Levant show. Every day I do a video monologue and then I interview an interesting guest and then I end by reading my hate mail. But you've got to subscribe to it, which you can do at therebel.media/shows.